I'll make a motion to start the meeting.
Okay. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will take roll call. Kate Smith here. Dennis Kapelinski.
Here.
Sharon Parkala.
Here.
John Jones.
Here.
Bridget King.
Here.
Jennifer McConnell. Robert Smith. Kathy Kopchak.
Here.
Rob Jones.
Erica, are the three that are absent excused?
I have Rob, Robert.
And Jen?
Yeah, she might have told me that. We'll excuse those. I don't have a pen that works.
Okay, questions or comments regarding the agenda? Hearing none, would somebody like to approve it?
I'd like to approve the agenda.
A second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0. Questions or comments regarding the minutes?
You know, I did just want to add, because I wasn't here, I had shared the update in the email, so I know it says there were no updates, but I just wanted to note that there was a Parks and Rec Director report sent in the email before the meeting.
So do we need to go back and change the minutes? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I just want to note that there was, I mean, really, it should just say, report was submitted via email.
Okay. Do we have to okay the addition?
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a
Yeah,
motion
if
to
someone
approve
wants
the
to-
addition of Erica's addition to the meeting notes on February 25th.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0. Presentations?
Yeah, so I was just, I'm hoping we're going to be able to get it up here. I did not get it kind of last minute, so I know they're working on it right now. I don't know how many happened to see last night. Anybody?
I saw it.
Yeah, so I don't know, I mean, I can, oh, they're so good, thank you. I don't really want to rehash it, it's about 40 minutes, but, I mean, why don't you guys tell me what you would like to hear about this? Or did you see it? No. And Kate?
I did not.
No.
I saw it.
Or, yeah, you were there.
Oh, I was driving when you were on, but yeah.
What's that?
I was driving here when you were on, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
I listened.
Okay, so do you guys want me to go through it? What?
What, the budget?
Yeah, it's a presentation on the Parks and Rec budget.
Maybe a condensed version I would like to see.
Could you give
Okay.
us a Cliff Notes?
Yeah, well, let's go quickly through it. So we'll just go to the next slide. So what it is a brief overview and then a dive into the three parks. So maybe what I can do is really center on the Radcliffe. That's the one with the most changes, and I'll share like the impacts from the deduction. So we can go to the next slide. I'll skip my opening speech on that. We can skip that. We can just dive in. There's 3 slides about, I will say, I'm going to talk about this one for a minute. You all know we've had $3.2 million reimbursed with all the investments. There's $3 more million in progress. So there's been a lot of investment in the last year, and we've seen programs grow and expand. And I shared last night a number of 30,000 people that have scanned at the front desk. So those are Parks and Recreation members coming in for activities or Park and Rec type things, drop in. Some of it's just walking. And that does not count the thousands that are coming
30,000 over how long?
1 year.
One year.
At the opening year, I will stress. So that does not count the thousands that come in for FRC, Food Pantry, T-Lab, Head Start, any of the private rentals, any like cheer or like kind of special events.
I assume you don't count when the grade school kids come over either.
No, it doesn't count them. There's a lot that's missing. So that's a pretty remarkable number considering all that it doesn't capture and that it was an opening year where we were just making memberships and under construction, you know, for as far as that. So next slide. I highlighted the city park upgrade. I don't know if you all have been out and seen the addition. Was installed last week. So together with the, you know, the first project that wrapped up last year, that was almost $600,000 of capital improvements for that playground. And you all know about the 314,000 visitors to City Park. It's just a huge destination that people are visiting. Next slide. I just wanted to highlight all the volunteers. So there's all the existing volunteers, you know, making the food pantry run, the, what's the other one? The thrift shop. And all of the volunteers like yourselves and the commission, our Commission on Aging, we have all the community nonprofit groups that have volunteers. All of these volunteers, you know, are filling in gaps in the community to connect with, you know, connect with people, add joy, just create fun things to do. It's really one of the remarkable things about Garden City is the, you know, the depth and engagement of the residents. The other kind of additions this year have been the Junior Volunteer Club and our volunteer work days that we're going to be talking about today. So next slide. And then this is just that reminder, we have 8 parks, 2 facilities, and the budget is spread over 3 departments. Next slide. So this is a really kind of overview of each of the departments individually. And so we see in the left column, Parks, Ice Rink, Radcliffe. We see in the middle column what was approved last year, which was in July. You can see Radcliffe was 1.3 million. And then when you move over to the right column, that's what's being proposed this year. That would be effective July 1. So we see, you know, a $513,000 reduction in the entire Parks and Rec department. The brunt of that's coming out of Radcliffe. That's a 23% reduction. So it's a significant cut to the department. We see 1.7 is what we're working with. So next slide. This is where it gets into budget sheets. This is the 757, the parks. I think really all I was sharing in here, explaining some of the line items. The reductions in here are minor, but there is one significant loss. We are losing 1 full-time person who was split between parks and the ice rink. And that, along with some reductions in operating, is where we see some reductions in this budget. But by and large, you know, we're gonna, as I said last night, it's not like people are going to use the parks any less. We just have a little bit less resources to do our job, to keep them maintained and monitored. And we are gaining, it's not in here, but I was told by city manager that there is an addition of a maintenance line, because that was something I had been asking for. I think our council member out here, King, had been asking for, because it's really tough. We don't have any maintenance line. So when we do our park work days, those wood chips, all the materials and supplies, even small purchases like we want to do a field dragging this year, it's $6,000, but when your budget's 10 and you have to buy all the toilet paper, cleaning supplies, doggy bags, you know, for a park with 300,000 people coming to it, it's not a lot to work with. I mean, $10,000 for 8 parks is not a lot to work with. So, so that's kind of the highlight on that. We can go to the next slide, which was, I think, an overview of that particular line or that department. Really, the true reduction is about 40,000. And I just already talked about all that. So we can go to the next one. So ice rink, I know no one can read any of these. Again, these are the budget sheets right out of the BS&A. I was, again, just explaining in here, we have a pretty good revenue source at the rink through ice rentals, concessions, open skate, advertising, those sources. And in here, really, the only reductions are, again, in staffing, and I think a little bit less in operating. So the next slide just gives that overview. So again, we see the approved budget last year was 546. It's been amended, and where we're projected, and then what's being proposed for next year is 523. So about 23,000 less. So again, really that's coming from the loss of that full-time position split between the two departments. Same hours of operation there as well. So then the next slide introduces us to Radcliffe. So I start with the snapshot. Again, we saw 1.3 last July. When I started here, I said, ooh, that's a nice budget. And then quickly we realized there were some positions I couldn't fill. We couldn't hire any part-time people. So throughout the year, we've already cut almost 300,000 out, just actively trying to bring the costs down. So we're going to come in just over $1 million. That's that projected column. But to the right of that, the proposed is 877,000. So, that's that reduction of 439,000. And then the revenues, which are pretty good, in 24, 25, the expected was around 500,000. We're going to come in a little bit short, although I think we're going to be a little higher than this projection. We just have to wait and see. But the projections are still high. So this is the hardest thing that I'm dealing with is we've cut our staff, but our projections are high. I think that's based on the ideal that we want to go out and create more revenue through either renters or things that don't have operating costs with them. So I think that is the hope and the potential that Radcliffe has because we have a lot of empty space. So the next slide is going to dive into the expenditure budget, and I know you can't see this closely, but the highlighted things that I've put there on the left side are the areas where all these reductions are really happening. It's really only 3 areas. The staff, which is where 75% of that department budget reduction is. There's materials and supplies is cut in half. And then this one I'm really happy about. Maplewood Utilities was moved out of this budget. So that was just sitting in this budget because I don't know, people didn't know where to put it or whatnot, but those were being charged as our operating cost, and now they've been moved out. So those are the 3 areas that that I actually dive into. And the next slide is the staff one. So when you talk about staff, there's full-time and there's part-time. And a combination of those is reducing about 333,000, which is both the direct staff wages and then all the associated wages with them. So there's benefits associated with full-time people, but even part-time staff, there's almost a 7% cost that an employer has to pay on Social Security, Medicare, and unemployment. So even part-timers have these additional fees that are beyond the hourly wage. So in total, it's a 44% reduction in staffing cost. So this is why you're going to see the changes in operational stuff, because when you take away staff, they take a lot of things with them. So the next slide is going to, I guess, the numbers tell one story. Well, what does it mean, all these cuts? So, currently at Radcliffe, there's between 25 and 30 people on the payroll. Some of them work 3 hours a week as a dance instructor. Some of us are full-time. Myself and the Dance Express coordinator are going to be the remaining full-time staff there. The building manager, the senior coordinator, and the rec specialists are all being moved to a part-time position. In addition, the part-time staff is being cut, I think, by about half as well. So the next slide is this really amazing chart that is just a way of trying to understand where we are. So the left is all of the staff positions or titles or roles, however you want to look at that. The light green is showing what we currently are operating with. So it's showing the number of hours per week, for our full-time people. And then the way part-timers are, think of it like one big pot of money, and then you have to pay for all these different things in different roles. So each role does not have its own specific budget. They're just sort of in the same bucket. I always try to point out, or I've been pointing out, the food pantry coordinator does come out of our Parks and Recreation staffing, so some people don't realize that. We don't, obviously gain any programming from that, but that's part of the services that we provide. We are keeping all of the dance instructors, so once you start subtracting some of those numbers, what's left is a very, very scaled back, very thin part-time staff. There's really two buckets that I'm working from. There's a full-time bucket that's in a transition year because some of the staff have benefits until September, so they're in the full-time sort of accounts, but eventually they're going to be in the part-time. And so what I am waiting to see what will happen is what staff are going to leave and who's going to remain, and then we may be shifting all of these around based on who's left. So if a full-time or a coordinator, as they're going to now be called, leaves, we'll probably look to, build out more of the other hours or hire like a version of those positions. Next slide. So the summary really is a significant staff reduction, full-time and part-time. This is really a downsizing of the department, the downsizing of services. There are some key changes expected this year, so hours of operation, programming, and revenue capacity. The next slide, I think, is we're gonna talk about revenue before I get into the service changes. Again, Radcliffe generates revenue through program registrations, through we have a series of grants, rentals, obviously, concessions. I think our target's been around 500,000. We're not going to quite get there. I also noted on this slide, there's a grant that comes in and it's not represented in this budget. It goes into a different budget. That's 20,000. That's dedicated for senior activity coordinator. So I'd just like to recognize that. But the next slide, we start looking at, well, what does this mean? So with that sort of staffing reduction, one, there's a lot of things we can do better. We can streamline, be more efficient. There's definitely things that I've seen where, I'm like, okay, we could probably, just do better with our resources. So we're going to do that first and foremost. But for the immediate period ahead, it's going to be a little rocky. These are the areas that are impacted. So the next slide is the hours of operation. So before we had any reduction efforts, so pre-March, we were open 68.5 hours a week. So Monday through Thursday, 8:30 in the morning to 9 p.m. Friday was 8:30 to 8, and Saturday 9 to 4. So what we're looking at for summer, which is really coinciding with a construction season, we're scaling back to a Monday to Thursday from 9 to 2. So that's a pretty significant reduction in time that's available for the residents to come in. Really what this is reflective of is we don't have a strong evening program like the dance throughout the school year. We sort of build around that program. In the summer, it's much slower. We don't have capacity to staff for programs that aren't generating revenue. And again, it's partially due to construction, the fact that my role is still heavy in grants and heavy in construction, and we're just so thin. So the hope is to make it through the summer, reassess what do we have, and basically come back in the fall close to what we're operating now. That would be the 8:30 to 9 p.m. Monday to Thursday, Friday 9 to 1, Saturday 9 to 1. So that doesn't mean that there might not be rentals or things beyond those hours or special events that we would do. They're just not part of the drop-in hours. And drop-in, I usually mean like open for walking, open to go in the game room, spaceport I'll talk about later, or fitness room. So, when you look at how many hours we were open, it was 3,500. This year coming up, it's going to be 2,500, so that's about a 25% reduction in hours, pretty significant. So the next slide, I think it just kind of summarizes this point. So summer is really being looked at as a construction and a reset period to restructure the department, start planning for the fall, and, just dealing with what is a resizing and a downsizing, I guess. It does, appear, and it is reduced availability and accessibility for community use, and it's primarily affecting unscheduled drop-in activities. The next key service change is building management, and this is really related to a full-time building manager who was really working above 40 hours every week, now going to 29, and some of the duties associated are all of the management pieces in managing a 78,000 square foot building. So all the opening and closing protocols and procedures, our security, stewardship, reporting like accidents, incidents, after-hours support, maintenance coordination, the staffing, so everything from scheduling, supervising, training, and general ownership of the building. In addition to those kind of things that really go beyond Parks and Rec, those are just maintaining that building. This position is responsible for our registration software, the money handling, concession purchasing and stocking, the emergency action plan, and a whole bunch of other things. I like to point out that we do provide overhead support to other programs that benefit from our supervision and oversight, so FRC, Food Pantry, Veterans, the Wayne County Metro, T-Lab, and the program like the AARP tax services. These are things that this department has been providing as part of our service to the community. We just don't generate revenues from those things. And at a time like this, when we're being downsized, these things are going to be impacted because we're just not going to have the capacity to do it at the same level. Next slide. So, key service changes, we're trying to figure out how to manage the fact that we're going to have less oversight in building-wide supervision. We have renters that are in there on the weekends when we're not in there. Coordinator staff is going to be asked to cover the front desk shifts, which ultimately means less times for, programming and rental coordination, because all of those things take time. Not having a full-time staff assigned to manage and care for the building is really going to just leave a lot of things falling, I'm sure, to myself and my role. I remember hearing when the city bought this building from Schoolcraft, they had 2 full-time maintenance people on site. And, we don't, like maintenance, we don't even have maintenance, we don't even have like a person, to care for the building. So I've already felt the extra work just in our people trying to get their hours to 40 hours. So I think it's going to be, it's going to take a lot of extra time for myself, and it's really not Parks and Recreation related. So I think that'll be a challenge. Next slide. Youth programming, we have a rec specialist who's primarily focused on growing programs for youth and kids. And we've seen a lot of things added. This is everything from classes that are year-round, the summer camp, activities, holiday events. And this has been an area that's been really fun to see growing. And it's so fun to have the kids in the building. We had 120 sign up for the Daddy-Daughter, which was the biggest turnout they've ever had, which was fantastic. And so the next slide, basically, our goal is to keep as much as we can. I think it's going to be rocky in the next few months, but we're going to stabilize the position to be in a part-time role. We can still do a lot of great things with a part-time role. It's just going to take a little adjustment, and we're going to have to start with our really successful programs and hopefully try to build from there. So that's the outlook on the youth programming. The next slide is going to talk about our senior programming. Again, we had a senior programmer for many years that was part-time at 29 hours. So we know that we can still do a lot of great things with that. But to give insight into the position, this position handles multiple grants that provide funding for this program. It brings in the Senior Alliance grants, and there's a evidence-based disease prevention program that does like a reimbursement. So all those arthritis exercise classes that are donation-based, so free, or you can make a donation. So there's a lot of paperwork involved in that. Our coordinator is managing the fitness room activity, the silver sneakers, the memberships, all the reporting that she has to do for the grant. And then, of course, this is where I think a lot's been added, the events, like the lunches and the trips. And this person is also the liaison to the thrift store and the Commission on Aging. So it's a pretty full position. Again, the next slide will just talk about, the goal is to maintain the majority of classes. As I said, we know that we can do a lot of great things with part-time people. We're not going to be able to do the same level because there's 11 less hours. I think there's a little more instability when you have part-timers from year to year. We know like trips and lunches and 2 bingo classes are really what's being right now put on hold until we can stabilize and look to, we can look to grow either with volunteer support from the Commission on Aging or different ways people want to assist in this. So that list up there was a list I had shared because I think there was a lot of online concern about what was being canceled and what wasn't. So there's a list. The longer list is everything that's staying. The shorter list are the things that are like on hold. Either they are just things that were added when the position went to full-time or time-consuming, or again, are more of a loss. And we would need like additional funding to make those go. So that's the status with senior programming. So the next slide, so now Spaceport and esports. Currently, Spaceport operates 32 hours a week. It has been free for kids the whole time it's been open. Esports has been getting used by the Garden City School District. They have a high school team and then a middle school club. We do not have funding at this time to maintain the current operation past Memorial Day. With that said, we are exploring partnerships with the schools to help us at least, they've agreed at this point to help pay for the memberships of the gaming memberships, so it's around $4,000 just to keep those active, because once we shut those down, it would be very difficult to get it back up like easily for anything. So they're going to do that. We're looking at some unique, trying to think creatively, like how can we keep this open? We know that it's going to need to move to a membership style of some sort. We've talked to some staff who've been working in that room about independent contracting with us, so a different sort of employee arrangement where they kind of become an entrepreneur and could propose a membership, and we do some kind of split so that they make the majority of that money, but we just get enough to cover some of the overhead. So we're hoping to have something so we at least have it open after school during the school year. We'd like to see it available for parties because we have had interest in those. It's really hard seeing some of these things that it feels like we haven't had a chance to really get them going. So all I can say is we are trying to think creatively and keep open to possibilities, that may come forward, and just doing it differently to keep it open. But essentially, the city just doesn't have these kind of funds to pay for things that aren't self-sustaining. And so the next slide, I think, is just going to summarize significant operational changes based on the available budget, seeking a soft close, which is that 9 to 2. I mean, that's 20 hours a week. That's, pretty scaled back. And it's not that, like, I'm not going to be working there. But again, there's just so much construction and other projects related to the grant. I think this is just a necessary sort of resetting of expectations on us and a chance for us to kind of restructure what we're going to look like in the fall. And looking to rebuild and, get to what is the full potential. So the next slide, I think, just shares, one of the things people often ask or express is, are we expected to meet our cost? Because we generate revenue, there's sort of this assumption that we must be able to meet cost. And the NRPA, which is the National Park and Recreation Association, they are our industry leaders. They're quite upfront. There is no standard that can be applied across all communities. Every community is different. They're a different size. They have different amenities, and they, have different values. So it's not that useful to do, but you can look and compare yourself to communities of your size. One of the numbers that I'm always interested in is the cost recovery. That's, the relationship between your revenue and the operating cost. So 25% is the average cost recovery for cities our size. So that means for every $100 the city is investing, the department is generating $25 of revenue. So a 25% cost recovery. So the next slide is going to show us where we fall. And I did this by departments and then a total. So our parks, which are primarily non-fee, right? We don't charge people to go to parks. We have some revenue sources, like the really softball and pavilion rentals. So it's a pretty low cost recovery. But overall, the net cost or the net loss is $254,000. So that's what all the residents are paying to have 8 parks available, for all the different ways people use them. In the ice rink, we see a higher cost recovery rate, double the average for a city our size in that particular department. I think that's because ice, you can sell it. There's a lot more revenue potential. And of course, there's still a net loss of $240,000 to this, that the city residents are paying. And then Radcliffe is coming in around 45%. So it's a pretty good cost recovery rate. That's it's 20% higher than the average. And when you combine everything together, we're at 42%, which I think is pretty good. The net loss, so this is the amount all the taxpayers are paying, is just over $1 million. And that is, of course, $1 million doesn't get you as much as it used to, but $1 million, if you spread that out for every individual resident of like 27,000, it's $40 a person, a year to generate $1 million. And obviously families have more than, one person. That's not how taxes are spread, but that's just an illustration of, to me, the value that residents are getting for these services. So that's just, something to think about when people are questioning, should we be making more or, just eliminate Parks and Rec. Because one thing that this also is showing is if you eliminate, when you make cuts in Parks and Rec, so many things go with it, like revenue and services. And so it's not just a straight cut. You cut 1.8 out of there, but then you would lose $750,000. So anyway, I won't get into that. I'm starting to go off track. But the next slide, I think, is the very last slide, moving forward. So what I'm left with, what our department's going to do is work hard, try to regain community trust, because I feel like the community has seen all this money go into Radcliffe, and now we're shutting doors. That's terrible. All we can do is do our best to provide exceptional services, get creative, and do the best with what we have to work with. The grant spending, we've started the committee. I think there'll be an update on that. To me, it's really important that we think about spending that can sustain our operation in that building. And then, of course, it's the community who's going to let us know if something like a parks bond for community investments or a Parks and Rec operating millage to develop dedicated funding, if that's something desired or possible in our community. So again, all we can do are 1 and 2, and then see where that gets us. And I think that's the end. Is there anything left? Yes, okay. So that's the fast version. It feels like pretty depressing, you know, it's really, it's just not great. But I don't know, do you guys have questions?
Yeah, the key question I have is, when did we make the approved budget? When was the approved budget?
July of last year. So if you remember,
Do we always do the budget
no, that was
that
late.
soon
The
for
budget,
the following year?
that was late. So the budget is July 1 to June 30th. That's the fiscal year. So the budget last year, I think because it was so, I don't really know what happened. I got here end of May, and the budget was proposed, but there was a 2.5 million deficit in that. You know, by law, the budget has to be balanced. So it was balanced by using 2.5 million of the fund balance, which is like that savings account. So it kind of flew under the radar, and like even when I started, you know, I thought, oh, there must be something unusual that happened. But what really started to happen is when we got a new city manager, looking at the numbers, we were waiting for a finance director to really understand and sort through it all, and that really didn't happen until like January. And that's when all of this news, and I mean, it's like shocking because I wasn't expecting that at all, you know?
So basically, it took 9 months to amend the budget.
Yep. I mean,
Which
I will
that-
say when Tim started, he froze like we couldn't hire the position, because when I started, there was an empty position, so we lost 5 full-time positions. But, you know, part of that is because the budget that I saw it did not have a sustainable plan. You know, and that's why we had so much growth in the last few years. The problem was there wasn't a plan to sustain that. There wasn't an increase in money to sustain it. So we're really being rolled back to like a 2018 plan. And
I know there are quite a few communities in this area that have a millage dedicated to Parks and Rec, which probably makes
Yes.
it a lot easier.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but the point would be is you're going to have to figure out where the happy medium is. Can we get $5 a month, $60 a year? And like you said, that would equate to $1.5 million or whatever it equates to. Can we do it?
Well, I mean, I think.
that might be better than telling everybody you're going to pay an extra. I mean, obviously, they didn't like that they were going to pay another $100 a year for property taxes.
Right.
So where is the number? There's got to be a number that everybody's happy with. Is it $3 more a month? Is it $5 more a month? I mean,
And I think, like, truthfully,
mostly everybody sitting
we have to show
here.
that we're responsible enough for that. I mean, I think part of the problem is there's not a lot of trust, or at least,
the transparency hasn't been there, and people are just,
right. And people, I mean, taxes, you know, nobody enjoys paying taxes. I don't care who you are. And if they're being raised, people either need to know a lot about it, you know, and have some support for it. But it's just not a great time. The city got a lot of money, and, you know, I wish it could have been done differently. I wish it could have been invested a little differently. But all I can do is, you know, be transparent, work really hard, try to problem solve and engage our staff once we get through this very difficult transitional period, you know, and start to rebuild. So I think that's what Tim's plan is to do this painful shrinking down so we can kind of restructure and cut out our waste or where our inefficiencies are, maximize the potential of part-time staff, and then start to grow, you know, but yeah.
I can tell you this, I think the biggest problem would be if you get rid of Garden City Parks and Rec Department, you are going to find it harder and harder to get people to move into the community. So now you're going to talk about less and less income because people aren't going to want to move in to a city that does not have a Parks and Rec. I don't know how to tell them any better than that.
Yeah. Well, in
I
fairness.
mean, you can look at,
we
you're not
do
going to get
have-
money in, but I'll tell you
Right.
what, you get rid of Parks and
know.
Rec, you're not going to have people wanting to, They're not going to say, oh, heck, let's go to Garden City. They don't have Parks and Rec. They're not
Well,
going to be doing that.
listen, we still have a
That's not gonna
$1.7
happen.
million budget, so I don't want to give the illusion that we're all being canceled, right? We still have a 1.7 budget. But you're totally right, and something I shared was, in talking to people, the times I've heard people talk about the city pool and growing up here and their memories, I mean, everybody's got a story about that, and at some point in time, the leaders of this city invested into those facilities. I mean, City Park is a gem of a park, just how it was designed, all the trees, the way it's been. That's why it draws so many people. But somebody at some point made that decision and had enough support to invest in a pool, an ice rink, because that's what attracted families, right? But it's just over time, it's so hard to keep that investment up because we compete with roads. And I mean, we're in an aging city, so the sewer lines, the cost of labor, the legacy costs, all of these things are so heavy on the tax or on the city budget. And parks often is, kind of seen as the fluff department. And like, I both understand that. I mean, obviously I work in this profession and I think what we do is exactly what you talked about. People aren't gonna wanna live somewhere that doesn't have great community gatherings and recreation programs.
I'll call Parks and Rec the redheaded stepchild, because that's basically what it comes. No, it really does. Any city I go to and anybody I've talked to over the years that I've been on Parks and Rec, they all have the same problem. We're the redheaded stepchild. We're the last one thought about. And we're the last one to ever get money.
Well, my last job, we had a capital and a maintenance millage that provided not all of the funding, but a significant amount. And then on top of that, council passed a fairness resolution so that at any time in the future, they could not cut parks at a higher percentage than any other department. But I mean, so that's what can happen. You can put things in place, but that's pretty rare, because what are you going to do? Cut your police and fire? People are very, protective of that. And I'm not here to debate what's more important. All I can do is speak to what I believe in and the importance of what we do,
If you're cutting the summer hours, will that cut down on the room rentals at Radcliffe?
Well,
Will you have somebody assigned there if you can rent the room?
I mean, we will still be able to, it's my understanding that if there are rentals or activities that can essentially pay for the staffing, we'll be able to offer those still, The hardest thing is that our projected revenues are the same as this year. So that's hard because anytime I want to, run a program or something, I'm generating revenue, but now I'm adding costs, and our revenue projections were so high, what we have to do is find a renter or some other revenue source that's not just programming based, because programming requires requires staff. I mean, we can do some free things, but you still need coordination. So there's always costs associated with revenue. So we can't just have revenue without investing in the staff.
And cost on the other hand.
Yeah, so that will be the challenge.
Or being able to rent more of Radcliffe for different
Yes.
projects.
And
And see, the problem is we don't have, and I've said this before, what they really need is they need somebody to be the marketing expert and go out and try and do this, because they can't ask the Parks and Rec director to go out and beg Gordon Chevrolet or Joe Blow's liquor store or Susie's gas
Right.
station or ice cream parlor. You don't have time to go out and beg people
Yeah, I mean, I got
for money
24
for
hours in every
advertising.
day. Like, that's what we all have, right? I will say, I'd have, at our committee meeting, actually, someone had mentioned, well, why don't you talk to Westland? And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So I did a little research, and I reached out to the Parks Director, and they're going to come over, the director and the mayor are coming over Friday to just do a tour and chat a little bit about potential collaboration. So, I mean, there's always possibilities, and I truly believe like anything is possible. It just sometimes it's a little rough getting there, but I do think like that building, we're putting $7 million into it, and there's a lot of great things there. So I think we're gonna have to just weather this next period, but I really do believe that there is potential for some kind of partnership. I know our city manager's talking to different, people sort of showing the facility, like, do you have any ideas? Because there's not an idea that's not on the table. We are just open to anything.
You still talking with the library about possibly
Yeah,
moving
I think
there?
the library, I don't know if anybody follows that, their last board meeting, they decided they weren't going to pursue coming over to Radcliffe, just too many unknowns. And they're still, I think, 5 years away or 4 from really building. So maybe that'll come back around if they don't end up building where they're at now. I think if they were, it'd probably be in the parking lot, so not like in the building, which wouldn't really, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for them, but right
Where do
now,
they think
that's
they're going to
not
put where do they think they're going to put the library? Still at Maplewood, where it's at,
No.
but just build on?
No,
No,
where
they bought a property,
where the old
By
Berger Center
Berger.
used to
Yeah,
be.
Dawson
Oh.
and,
Okay.
so I don't know. I mean, I don't know what will happen with them. I don't know
not
if,
Dawson, Beechwood and,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Tell them to sell that, we'll sell them some property over at Radcliffe, and then they can build their building over at Radcliffe, and we can all be together and
I mean,
be one
you-
happy
I mean, I love that idea. I think for the community, like,
Yeah.
we have the schools on, we have this big field coming in, like, there's so much stuff going on, so,
That makes sense to have
Yeah.
our, basically our community center, if you will,
Yeah.
and have the library in the same spot.
Because they have a lot of programs for younger kids that they do at the library.
yeah.
That They could just as well do it at Radcliffe, but
Yeah.
that's,
And then I think what you'd get is you'd get people that are going to take their kids there, and then they might see something that's on the same day or same night, or,
Yeah.
the weight room, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like the one-stop shop with Myers, You go there and you can get everything. You need to paint your house.
Well, you should go to the
get
library.
food,
You should go to the library board meeting
go
and
to
pitch
the
that.
library board meetings and discuss this with them, John.
So,
well, how long they've been trying to build that.
Huh?
I don't know how long they've been planning on building a new library, but it's been years.
Probably since they got rid of the last one.
Yes.
so.
I got a couple of questions. Are you gonna run the summer camp?
Yes, actually, I have a flyer for that. Right now, it's 4 weeks, so it's like every other week. So I think because this is until June, July, August, depending on where our staffing is, like, we could add on to it. It's just right now, it's so uncertain, like, who's going to be here at that time. So we want to have something out there. And I don't know, have you guys seen the electronic Rec Connect? 'Cause I don't, did I send it to you? I'll send a link. I made a couple copies, but we do have our summer program online available. The summer camp, yeah, right now it's 4 weeks.
Okay.
instead of the 8.
And then, have you already planned for September, the reduced hours? I saw that it was listed for the Friday and the Saturday early close.
Yeah, I mean, right now, that's just based on available staff. I mean, that's sort of what, I've worked out, just doing the math and trying to figure out, like, with everybody reduced, what does that look like? Again, I think any of these things can change. If we stabilize, if we get different renters in, I mean, all of those things we could change. I mean, even our Rec Connects, we had it all ready to go, I mean, with everything full. And then we had to go back and sort of pull out some things because it just has created this uncertainty. Next summer, we won't have this kind of uncertainty, I don't believe, because I think we may lose 1 or 2 of our kind of core full-timers, like altogether. So if they leave, then we rehire, and I think, then there's just different expectations. It's just very hard going back, and just the morale right now. Like, so that's part of what is very difficult now, is like trying to rebuild and get people excited, when they just feel,
Well, it came on suddenly, too.
Unfortunately, you're
Yeah.
probably going to have people that you're going to be able to get rid of because they're not going to be able to handle this.
well, right, I mean, yeah. That's,
With the
there's not
east-
going to be as many hours for some, and, some people are going to have to just move on, and we're going to have to keep our best and have different expectations and all of that,
On the esports, did we ever go anywhere with Divine Child? Or what school was it that was? It
Yeah,
was a
Divine
Catholic school
Child.
that was interested in it. Did we ever get any traction with that?
Well, we had him, I mean, he's pretty well set up at his school. They've rented from us, I think, 2 times, and I think they have something in the spring, actually, where we're showcasing our room, and I have to double check that, actually. But really, we were focusing on the Garden City schools, and, you know, at least, because this is the first year, I mean, there's a lot of technology behind that room, and getting everybody signed in and figuring out all the kinks has taken us a little bit of time. I think now that the coaches from the school are going to have like a season under their belts, we're going to be able to let them supervise that room and hopefully need less of our staff. So that's part of why we want to work with them to see if they could at least pay for this, you know, these memberships, so then we can focus on staffing, you know, and just another plan to keep it open for everybody.
Did we think about door cards?
What do you mean door cards?
Like, you say we got to watch people coming in and out, right?
Yeah.
So give them a door card, you know?
Oh, like
you-
the scanner?
Like a scan
Yeah,
card.
they have those. We have those.
Yeah.
And then that way, if you have like the guy who wasn't paying us, you just turn his card off. But he could sit there at the door and wait for somebody to come in and go in with them.
Well, I will say, I do not think that room could go without supervision. Just the ages,
And the cost for the equipment that's in there. too.
yeah. I mean, we've spent a lot of time reviewing security footage, like if a headset turns up missing, or, you know, sometimes the kids were, like,
There's
middle
cameras in
school
there for
kids
sure.
are, what?
There's cameras in there for sure.
Yeah, they are. Not every angle, but yeah, there's cameras in there, but you have to then watch them. I mean, that would be a very difficult room to not supervise, just because of what they can get up to on the computers. I mean, the person there is, and actually, most of what they're doing is supervising the technology and maintaining like the safety of those esports, because there are a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, just things in some of the rooms that you got to be monitoring. So we have software that allows the front desk person to kind of see what people are doing, where they are, and just monitoring that, and then just handling all the tech issues, you know. So I think that would be a very hard room to just let go and not have anybody in there, you know. But
Anything else about the presentation? I think it's sad to talk about most of the revenue coming in from renters, you know, and less programming. And it's worrisome when you close the building and have less staff, then you can't run programs and then you can't make money. So I would be curious to see where revenue truly comes in at after, you know, closing the building for so long, and I worry about building programming back up then after it is gone. So I'm just cautious about this whole thing, and it's hard to be optimistic.
No, you're right, because what happens is if we think about a restaurant where people go to eat, if they shut down for a month to redo the restaurant, when they open back up, they don't automatically get everybody back. They get maybe 70% or maybe 50%. It takes them a long time because these people have now gone somewhere else to eat, and then that's their habit. And we know people are creatures of habit.
well, and the staff have worked so hard to grow some of the things too. And that's, I mean, I share the same concerns.
And I feel so bad that you have just come into all this and are dealing with it now. I'm very thankful that you're handling the grants and getting that.
How long are you staying?
Day by day, day by day.
You almost remind me of the person who's critical but stable.
I mean, there's
you
never a
have
dull
had it,
day,
and you've
let
done
me
a
say
great.
that.
Now, again, I can't say this enough. You've absolutely done a great job, and I wish we'd have had you for a lot longer, and we probably wouldn't be in this position. Because, I mean, you came in and then they wanted information. I mean, within 30 days, you had them information of what things were going on. I mean, you've just done a fantastic job. And I feel so bad that you had to come into this,
Yes.
well,
Well,
thanks,
I
Dennis.
mean, thank you. You know, I will
I would have
just
called
say,
it
like,
something else.
I know.
It's been, you know, there's so many cool things going on, and it's really wild in one day. Like, there's so many fun things I'm still working on, and then there's days like yesterday, or just like going through this, you know, presentation, I see everybody's faces, it's like, like, so depressing.
But you're on the roller coaster.
But, you know,
There's highs
I
and
do
lows every day.
believe, like, I do believe that everything all the staff has done, all the grants that have gone in, I do think that it was not wasted, and I believe that all of that we're gonna be able to come back and give back to the citizens, like, what they were hoping for. I think this is just, you know, an unpleasant kind of follow-up to some of the decisions that were made and how they were done. And, you know, it's just a reminder, like, operating plan. You know, because the vision and the ideas are all great, and I love some of the rooms, but it's so much, caused me so much reflection to think about, like, how can you do these things? How do you get people excited and get grants, but do it in a way that has a sustainable, like, future, you know, because this is just so devastating. But, you know, I also think there's good things ahead. You know, I really do. I think that building, the infrastructure upgrades are going to give us, you know, another 20 years, because, you know, think about it, another 30 years, they're going to be the same repairs needed. You
Right,
know?
because you think about the Imagination Station, I don't know where we're ever going to go with
Yeah.
that. But, you know, when we were in talking with him about that, I mean,
Yeah.
his vision of that sounded great. You know, okay, we're going to get this age group in and this age group
Yeah.
in, and then people will start having parties here and stuff, you know. And he basically sold me on it, and I'm like going, well, this thing ought to generate enough money to, you know, sustain itself. But if you still don't have the room done and you're still not generating any income from it, it's, what have you accomplished? You've accomplished nothing.
Right.
And is that ever going to get finished, or is it just going to be a
Well,
room?
I mean, I would love to see us put a little bit more in to at least, like, make it a room for camp or something, but, you know, I don't know. And the committee, I think, has got there's a lot of other ways to spend the rest of the grant. If we can get a little bit more, you know, I think someone had the idea, like, put a bouncer in, like, a bounce house in this, or, like, have something in here. So then it's at least, maybe another group might be interested in renting it for something, you know, I don't know.
You got to come
so-
up with something if you're not going to finish it. Because
Yeah. Right.
that big area needs to generate income.
Yeah, something, yeah, I agree.
If you got it just sitting there taking up space,
Yeah.
that's not a good
Yeah, I'm gonna
thing.
move my office down there.
You'd have a nice office.
So,
Anything else about the budget presentation? I look forward to hearing your plan for September. I think we need one, you know, we need to pivot and figure out what works quick. Okay, moving on. Public hearing.
Anything, gentlemen?
Public comment?
Gentlemen, again.
Okay, items for consideration, old business.
okay, I know I wasn't here last month, but I think you all talked about proposed park cleanup days, and I've been making a few calls. What I'm passing around is an Earth Day event. So this hasn't been publicized. I wanted to run it by you all. What I was thinking is to host an Earth Day event at City Park, just to kind of kick off a volunteer season for us. Usually Earth Day is great. People are looking for volunteer hours. And I'm usually litter. I'm meeting with a muralist tomorrow, actually, and I want to exploring some painting that we could do at the bathhouse just to make it look a little better, so on the exterior and then possibly in the interior. So maybe we'll be able to paint, but we might have to also do that later in the year.
Is the bathhouse open? I thought-
No, no.
Okay.
Not yet. I think we had talked about early April for Moeller Park. I reached out to Joe, and this was like last Thursday, and he was heading out of spring break. He's like, I'll give you a call on the 31st to talk about a workday at Moeller Park. So if we don't get into April, I think we just want to get out there before their opening day, which I think is May 10th or something. Or no, I'm sorry, I don't know. It might be late, actually, I think it's later in May. So we'll try to coordinate a workday with them. They usually have some brush cutting and things along the fence lines. We'd like to add the wood chips. You know, do that City Park workday, plan for Manor Park, again, maybe in June. Florence, you know, I did reach out to the schools, and I didn't hear anything back. I sent another email today, but I had the thought they might be on spring break
Yeah, I
as
think they
well.
are.
So I think maybe when they get back, the Tipton School, hopefully I'll hear from them too. I threw out a couple of dates, either I think end of May and early June, just to see what they would recommend. I think that one would be after school. And then I'm supposed to be meeting with Kiwanis Park. They were just trying to get through their pig events, and then they have like a committee that's, I think, a park committee. So I'm going to follow up with them and see if they have a date for Kiwanis. So I don't know, last month, you guys didn't really didn't have any dates or preferences?
No.
No?
But I do have a question.
Yeah.
So when is our meeting in April? Is it the 29th or the 22nd?
That'd be the 20.
Is it the 4th or is it the last?
I thought it's always the last.
It's always the last,
Okay, then the 29th.
so it'll be the 29th. Just want to check, because you got 4/22/2025, which is the Tuesday,
Yeah,
for your Earth Day.
yeah.
I was thinking if our meeting...
okay, I see what you're saying.
Here's what I'm thinking, sorry. If our meeting is on 4/22, if we're going to be at this from 3 to 4:30 and then have to come for the meeting, maybe we either want to move our meeting to the 29th, or if our meeting's the 29th, we don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about it. It is the last Thursday, right?
Last
Or
Tuesday.
I'm sorry, Tuesday. Yeah.
In Kiwanis Park, guess what? The geese are gone.
Or are they?
They're all gone. I don't know where they went, but they're gone.
What's going?
Think
The
they're
geese
gone for good, or just?
100 geese at Kiwanis Park, all winter. They just disappeared. They're gone, thank goodness.
Well, maybe they hang out there for, maybe watch it next year and see if they come, maybe they just hang out for the winter. That's like,
Some people were feeding them.
oh, okay. Because I could tell you this, at my house, last year I had Mr. and Mrs. Mallard, and then they disappeared, right?
Or you guys are getting off track. I'm going to bring you back.
But I'm just saying,
Somebody tunes in and
guess
we're
who's
talking
back
about your geese.
but guess who's back at my house now? The Mallards. I'm just thinking that they may have a certain part, you know.
Well, we could go interview them.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm going to try to do is get some dates from Joe and send them out. Who is our Moeller Park? And I think I heard at the last meeting, everybody kept their old parks, and then we assigned the new ones, and I don't think I brought that list with me, but that works for me. So I guess, who's Moeller Park?
Robert.
Robert, okay. So what I'll do is consult that list when I have like a few date options. And I mean, you all are still interested in kind of captaining your park workday type of thing? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, okay. Yeah. I think they're really good. I think these are important things for us to do. The parks definitely need them. They were really fun last year, so hopefully we still get, people. So once I get dates, we can work on like a flyer that will have at least like the spring, summer one set up. So that's all I have. Yeah.
Nothing for new business, and then other business.
I put this down for you guys, the committee representatives.
For us to give an update about it?
Yeah, just
Oh.
to share with the rest of the Parks Commission.
Ladies?
Anybody?
You guys
Oh,
didn't,
is this about
you
the,
didn't prepare like a speech or a presentation for
No,
us?
I didn't know there was a presentation. Basically, last Wednesday, there's a committee of 3 council members. And is there New Zealand? oh, sorry, three of us that were, was I expecting to speak on this?
Who was the third one?
Basically, there is a little over 700,000 in our grant left to spend at Ratcliffe. We want to get it spent by the deadline. They're really trying to, the plan is so far, the gym that is there, that has the stage, talking about taking that stage out and then expanding on that, so putting some of that money into the gym. I guess the proposed gym that was going to be built at one point is actually a tad bit smaller than the actual gym that's currently already there if you take the stage out. So that's one of the things that we're proposing and looking at spending part of that 700,000 on. They really want that teaching kitchen, so they're talking about ways that we could still, build the teaching kitchen, and then like other things little things that need to kind of wrap up that grant money.
So the stage, they wouldn't put anything in, all they'd be doing is making
The plan is, as
they'd be
far
making
as I
it bigger.
understand, is basically
You'd have more
taking the
floor.
stage out.
You'd have more
making it
floor
larger
space.
floor space, making it all like usable,
Okay.
like gym area for like basketball, volleyball, pickleball, those types of things. So maybe we could
Is any-
eventually generate revenue with like rentals of like, I know GCYA, their cheer rents space, for their cheerleaders for certain events and certain things they do. But that's the discussion that the commission, the new committee that's been created for Ratcliffe to try to figure out the best way to spend that money and then still have like revenue-based.
Do we know if we have people qualified in Garden City to be able to take it out? And can we use the grant money to pay our people to take it out? Or do we have to put, what I'm saying? Do we
Well,
have to
right
put a
now,
bid out to take the
Ratcliffe-
stage out?
Yes.
Or can we have our people in Garden City take it out and have them give us a price?
When you mean our people, do you mean employees?
Yes, our employees.
You have to
And I'm saying, I
No,
would be
we
saying
do not
like,
have any more DPW sort of favors to call on anymore, but
what if we were to pay them to take it out?
yeah, I don't
And we
think-
use grant
I
money to
don't-
pay our people to do things? I'm just trying to think
We
outside
could,
the
but
box.
I mean, I think we
'Cause
have a
say we're tight on
contractor
money,
that's
so
going
I'm
to be
saying, here, we
putting,
got grant money.
Is there anything underneath that stage that has to be removed, wiring?
I mean, there's a contractor that has already given, I believe, Erica a quote that needs to go to council.
Well, yeah, when I was there today, there were three guys, they crawled underneath the
yeah.
stage there.
Did he give you a quote to do it?
Yeah.
Can you reflect on what that was? Or you-
Yeah, I think it's about 40,000
Yeah.
to take down the stage. There's some questions about the HVAC on the sides. So there's a couple of like unknowns. That's what's really hard. It's not going to be a project to go to a sealed bid. We're just really running out of time. And to do that, you really need, the drawings and engineering services. So this would be more of an in-house project. We're trying to get quotes. I've got some quotes on the basketball nets. The flooring is the big ticket, kind of unknown right now. And then there's some like electrical, changing lights, moving the speaker system cords, because we have that audio box now. So there's not a huge amount of things, but a couple of things we don't know how much they'd cost. Oh, and the other item we got a quote on are the dividers that come from the ceiling. So the thought is we could pull out the one that's the older kind that when it's folded, it comes out like 6 feet and it really interferes with what you can do in the gym. So if we remove that and add 2 more dividers, we could create 3 spaces so we could have more things going on, in those spaces. I mean, that's the plan, is to create more spaces for all the
Like
different.
to create more
requests.
rental space in that,
Yeah,
in the gym?
yeah.
Yeah, how big is the stage? It must give us how much extra room?
I think it's like 28 feet.
Yeah, I don't know the schematics
If,
of it.
once the stage comes out, that size of the gym would be actually bigger than the one that was been proposed to been built. So it's a good-sized gym. We're not going to do like a full-size court with bleachers. We don't have room for that. It's really about optimizing gym space, and there is a stage there, and I've been kind of waiting, like, is there a group here that's really protective of the stage? Because you just don't know, like, some people don't want to see those things go, but I just haven't heard that, and it sounds like the schools have that program, so the preference from what I've heard is to expand gym usage.
Yeah, it's kind of going to remind me of, I don't know if any of your kids, my daughter plays a high velocity soccer, but they're downstairs, they have this whole area that's just like on weekends is full of basketball, volleyball, like all kinds of different sports over there. And it's, to me, is what's going to, I think it's going to eventually look like, but I could be wrong.
Multi-purpose,
Yeah,
essentially.
multi-purpose.
That's a good
like gym
idea.
area.
I mean, it's waste of space right now.
Yeah.
Good stage, yeah.
Yeah.
So, anything else? Because there's also the kitchen, finishing that. I guess those are the two big projects.
Yeah.
On the kitchen, there were some good ideas about keeping things that were already there. Like there's a big counter space, putting a new top on it, rather than taking out, because it's got a lot of drawers and that type of thing in their storage. And also, if you take it out, then you have to redo the floor. So the guy who was there was giving us a lot of good ideas on what we could do to keep things that were there and reuse them.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we got the right guy looking at it.
Plus, he's on one of the boards for the city.
Planning Commission.
Anything you want to add?
It's just surreal talking about spending $750,000 while also talking about closing the building.
Isn't that-
So I am
Two
Yeah.
different hands, though.
just trying to roll with
Here,
it.
let me just put the sword out and you can fall on it, okay?
But I mean,
exactly
the grant
right.
money is there, it needs to be spent, so.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to lose
And
it if
then
we don't
hopefully,
spend it,
once,
so.
I mean, we spend the grant money that we have, and then hopefully, you know, I know there's a huge cutback now, but hopefully we can kind of rebuild from. I feel like
Hopefully, if you can get the gym right,
plan, like
and get the room right.
almighty plan of Radcliffe was amazing. I just don't think it was executed properly to where we can afford, this city can
I think we're
afford to
finding
run.
out too what doesn't work,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, like, to me, there's a few rooms in there that I would never have thought to
Yeah.
create, but.
And I mean, and honestly, I think getting the kitchen functional is going to be a long-term benefit.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
what
just-
it was
even just
now, that room
rentals.
had no value and, you know, so like, I am totally in favor of a functional kitchen.
Yeah.
Because I think long-term, so many renters are going to use it, like the cooking classes can grow when we're able to. So I think it's a
If you just
worthwhile
rent a
investment.
room
It's
to
just
baby shower, you
cleaning
know,
it.
you need
Right.
sometimes just the use of a kitchen.
Right, just like to wash dishes. I
Yeah.
mean, what we had was so non-functional,
Yeah.
or what we have, so, you know, so I think that's good. It's just trying to figure out, every project has limits in the budget, you know, because like
And we're in
$750
a
sounds
time-
like a lot, and then it's like all these, and then, you know, I have a list of stuff and nobody wants to spend those things, so they're operational. But, you know, we're just trying to think of like, once this grant's over, we know our operating budget is going to be just a little thing like that. So, you know, just trying to plan and be smart, you know, so.
I'm aware of a community that is up north that they have this, it's a Catholic high school, and I don't know how the community pulled this off, but they had like a community bottle drive, and what they did was they just set this big wagon out, tall wagon, and everybody tossed their empty returns. And I don't know who returned them, I don't know all the details. They ended up raising over $100,000.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
A lot of people don't like to take their bottles back. I know it's back.
That's amazing. That's like, what's the matter? Is that $1 million? I mean, that's,
How big a community was it, and how many people are in that community?
Super small city.
What is it?
I'm less than 5,000,
What's the name of it?
but the area, probably, they got more from
The surrounding?
yeah, surrounding areas, but they set this wagon in front of like a party store, but it would be mounding with the bottles, but I don't know how logistically, how they returned them all. Like if they got the distributor to just kind of take them and.
Sometimes I
Well,
think,
the other problem would
like a
be is,
retail store can get like their distributor, their beer distributor, whatever, to take their bottles back for them. So maybe they worked through a
Yeah, but I mean, they really raised a lot of money, and that was only over a year's time, so.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I think there's so many
I don't think you'd want to be
possibilities like that.
throwing glass bottles into a big container, because you wouldn't get your 10 cents for it, because all the glass would be shattered.
No, yeah, you'd have to set some.
Right, you'd have to almost have like,
Put them in, yeah, plastic.
you'd almost have to have two different containers, one where people can set glass in, other one, like you said, if it's plastic and aluminum cans, well, just toss them in if they're in a bag or whatever.
Yeah.
But glass is not going to be
All right,
good.
Kathy, we put you on that project.
I'm gonna try and find out more
We're gonna need
about
some-
how logistically they're returning these bottles and cans. Because and they're still doing it.
Yeah,
They started it during COVID.
yeah, that's incredible.
And, over $100,000 just the returns. Yeah. They kept high school going and they're.
Yeah. All right, well, we're taking all ideas, so,
Well, until things get figured out,
yeah.
So this flyer is this is just a mock-up?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just had Emily whip this up because I wanted to share it with you all and see if you like the idea. We could put like, if any of you want to come to it, we could say hosted by Parks and Rec Commission or try to pump it up or whatever.
Well, what about the
It would be
time
the
on that?
22nd of
Yeah,
April.
because that's Earth Day, so the
Okay.
22nd is Earth Day.
But it's a Tuesday, 3 to
Yeah.
4:30. The kids aren't out of school for one thing, and people aren't out of work yet, if they're working.
Well, right, not everyone can do that. The kids, though, are out at 3.
No, the Farmington doesn't get out till 3:30.
Oh, okay, middle school and up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of geared towards the middle school and high school, and then some of the people who are looking for hours, So yeah, it's not the greatest, because you're right, people will be in school. But we don't, well, how late, I'm trying to think of when it gets dark. I mean, no,
Oh, it's
It's
still
after
light.
7 now.
yeah, I know, well, it's later though, we're at, yeah.
Yeah.
It's still light around 7.
I mean, should we do 4 to 5:30?
That might work better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can try that.
Yeah.
You guys think that's a little better? So I can shift the times and then,
Well, I think what you got to do is try that time and see what happens.
yeah, I mean. And in April, you never know what the weather's going to be. It could be really nice and it could be sleeting, you know what I mean? So,
Who knows?
but yeah, I think to just try it.
Just
and-
had 75 the other day, and the next day we had 35,
Right,
okay?
exactly. I mean, if it's nice, we could do painting. If it's really bad, it'll just be litter pickup. But there's always stuff to find, and that park is so big, so it could be fun. All right, well, we'll push it back, and then what I'll do is I'll revise it and send it out to you guys, and then we'll try to start promoting it in our next newsletter and online.
And because I walk in the park a lot,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is okay with the ordinances and everything, but is it possible to staple it, like to
Oh, yeah.
certain poles so that?
Yeah, and we have the lawn signs where we could promote, like, the workday coming soon. So, yeah, and actually, we could put the flyer right on that one in particular. So we could do that for sure, so people could at least see it.
The people that walk and use the park
Yeah.
regularly did.
Yeah, I like that, for sure. That's a good idea. Yeah,
Okay, moving on.
yep.
Public comment?
Gentlemen?
All right, report from Parks and Rec Director, Radcliffe, updates and
we already
grandstand.
have.
I think you already covered everything.
Oh, no, I haven't, guys. You did get a packet. You can check all the February numbers. I'd just like to highlight, other thing, what is it that I wanted to highlight? Again, senior fitness room, 478 visits. I mean, it's fantastic seeing those. And even those arthritis classes I was talking about, the foundation exercise is 149 participants in 1 month. And then the other class, the Tai Chi, is 45. So again, just sharing those numbers. And you know, about 3,000 admittance scans in February. And then you can see just the different room rentals going on. So it's just nice to see all the activities there, so I'd just like to share that.
Somebody were to scan 3 times in one day, do they actually show up there on 3 times?
That's a good question. I don't know. Sometimes it comes up like as a duplicate, so I don't, I'll find out.
No, I'm thinking if somebody's a smoker or vapor or whatever, and they step out, well, then they got to scan when they come back in, right?
No, because they usually won't rescan for that.
I don't.
I mean,
If I already scanned it once,
yeah, I mean.
I'm already there.
And, you know, so I think what we're going to see in April is we're going to stop doing the membership, like the free memberships where we were requiring everybody to do the photo and everything, and then people to scan in. We're really going to move away from that. What we want are memberships for specific activities. So the senior fitness room, eventually we'll have the membership
You
for
got to
the.
scan, you can scan
Yeah.
in and out of there now.
We're trying to get a scanner on the game room, so if people want to come into those, they have a separate scan, but if you're just coming in for something you've already signed into, we're going to eliminate that. It's just, there's no purpose to it, it's creating bottlenecks, it's not the best customer service, it's come up before as just an ineffective procedure that, so I think we're just going to see that go away for now, because it just doesn't have purpose, so that. I think on a couple of Radcliffe updates, wanted to share. The 4th reimbursement did get submitted March 14th for $350,000, so that brings the total submitted up to $3.2 million, with $37,000 encumbered, meaning that money is already committed or in progress. So there's that 746 number that we're talking about. We have that Radcliffe meeting weekly now to develop the remaining projects, budgets. Everybody knows about the deadline. Update on the HUD. So the application's been submitted and executed. It's like 9 months of effort on that. The action plan is submitted and approved. So that whole grant, the 2.1, is ready for reimbursements. The exciting news is HVAC is out to bid. So April 11th, we're going to get back, hopefully, a great number. We have about $2,086,000 left to spend.
The bid is closing April 11th, not opening, right?
Well, bid opening means we open up the
The envelopes.
envelopes, so
Oh, okay.
it's the last day to submit it, though.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's when we'll know. We had 22 individuals come to the pre-bid meeting. So individuals interested in it. Some of them were subcontractors, but a lot of companies were definitely looking at this project. Our consultant has estimated about a 1.7 million. I hope that that's around it, because then we'd have a little bit extra that we could spend on any, well, not any number of things, but a few things, like maybe another bathroom renovation, or, you know, maybe we get to some of the stuff we didn't. So fingers crossed. The ADA bathroom project, I'm hoping while I've been sitting here, I've got the final spec sheets. I feel like every day I'm like, it should be getting posted tomorrow. We are really close. This project is going out to bid, a sealed bid. We have stamped drawings on it. Been doing a lot of work on that project. I'm really excited. We've actually, wait, am I on the, what page are you guys on? The grant updates?
I'm at grant updates.
Okay. So,
It has to be spent by June.
yeah, so that one is the most urgent. And I guess, let me just finish grant stuff, then the playground, you know, installed. We are waiting for the dirt to get picked up, and then some restoration around the playground. So that's exciting. Not looking likely on that big $500,000 grant, so it is what it is.
That was with who?
That was the CPF, a HUD grant that went through Rashida Tlaib's office. That was really looking promising, but I just don't think there's federal funding now. And so on the project side of the list, we finally had the roof inspection by the warranty providers. So there was some punch list work that had been going on the last few weeks. The rooftop is complete. There is some remaining work on the metal edging. There was some waviness and stuff that, our team wasn't happy with, so they're trying to fix that. That's the last thing before they get their final payment. Nothing on Imagination Station. The front desk, has everyone seen? It's open. It's really nice to have the staff out of the hallway. The snack bar is there. We don't have any hot food yet. That's still pending licensing, and then kind of our staffing setup. The ADA restrooms, this is what I wanted to talk more about. So this is going to be the bathrooms right by the front desk. We are bringing both of the rooms to ADA code. In the men's, right now there's 1 toilet and 3 urinals and 1 sink. What we're going to get is 1 toilet and 2 urinals, but 2 sinks in the new design. The women's has currently 3 toilets and 2 sinks. We're actually proposing to do 4 toilets and 4 sinks, and to do this, the plan is going to bump a little bit out into the art room to take up some of that, where there's existing plumbing, and because moving to ADA, what was happening in the first go-around is that we went down to 2 toilets and 2 sinks in there, and it just didn't seem like enough for the women's. I mean, most of our senior events, there's way more women. I mean, so we had to do a little bit of work. I think this is going to be nice. And we were low on the sink count across the building, so we're trying to get in more sinks. So all of these are like formulas on how many you should have. So anyways, that is moving along. I'm very excited. Our hope is that it goes out tomorrow on the BidNet, and then we're going to do the opening on April 11th, right after the HVAC. And then hopefully that can just get going right away and wrap up by June 30th. So Teaching Kitchen, we have the committee identifying the goals, the budget. I should have a demo quote at the next council meeting. Yeah, we already talked about all this, so I think that's everything for me. Oh, no, I know. Sorry, one more thing. Okay, I know you guys discussed the minutes, taking minutes. Nobody wants to do that. And I heard Commissioner Jones ask, well, why do we have to do it? Nobody else does. So I looked into that. City Council, Planning, and the Zoning Board in the charter have provisions where the city clerk takes the notes. The other commissions, Commission on Aging, Historical, Parks and Rec, have commissioners serve as secretary position. So one of my thoughts is if we divvied it up, I'll pass this out. This is like a minute sort of template, because this is an area where I could use some help, to be honest. I could use the help in just doing the minutes every month. And I thought, well, what if we each took 1 month a year? And you got a template. Really all that is important is to take our attendance, who's approving any motion. Usually it's like agenda, minutes, if there's a motion action or something, and just really basic notes about what was discussed. You guys see what the minutes are every month. It's not a long, detailed thing. It'll be like Erica gave an update, and that's like 30 minutes. You don't have to rehash everything. I was just thinking if we could, think about a way to distribute the hassle of it. I mean, I know nobody wants to go home and rewatch the meeting and take notes. I thought this could be a way. You don't even have to type anything. If you just turn it in on paper with your handwriting, that can be good enough. We don't need to be fancy. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I would be willing to take over the secretary position if somebody would take over chair.
Ooh, what a good swap offer. Let me put my glasses on and make some eye contact.
Who hasn't been the chair?
Who hasn't been chair?
I
John
have.
Jones hasn't.
You want to be chair?
John, you haven't been?
You want to be chair?
No, I haven't been chair. I've been chair. I was chair for
I think
years.
anybody?
Why not? You love to talk.
For
Anybody?
a little bit. 6
Anybody?
months.
I vote you, John.
Come on. I talk about how amazing our volunteers are. I really need volunteers to step up.
Jen will do it.
She's not here.
That's why she gets to do it.
You love to talk, John. You would be so good. You
And then Jen can be your
What is it?
co-chair.
What don't you like? It's all the power.
All right, let's
It's
do
all
this.
the-
Here's what I'll say. Let's either me and Jen do it, either she can do it and I'll still stay vice chair, either that or I'll take the chair and see if she'll take vice chair. If she'll
Okay.
take the
Do you
vice
want-
chair, then
Are you
I'll
going to
do it.
negotiate that with her, or you want me to
If you want to reach out to her, then tell her she can reach out to me.
tell her that you kindly?
Just tell her that tell her since she wasn't at the meeting, she is the chairperson.
But didn't she, who was the
Say
chair
he'll-
last year
The way
before?
you reach out to her, say, he said he'll be the chair if she'll be the vice chair. And then she can just say, I'll be the vice chair.
Oh, no, don't worry. I'll be talking to Jen, so that won't work so well. Jen knows I'll be calling her.
We could rope in Bridget or Rob, who's not here. Kathleen, she's also new. It seems like a great time to jump in and.
Oh, you should have been around when you can ask
I
Dennis.
was a chair for I was a chair for 8 years, 7 or 8 years.
You can ask Dennis. If you were absent, you were definitely getting a position.
Yeah.
If you were,
Well,
so
all right,
that's how we
well-
kept people from missing
This is a good-
meetings.
But they, yeah,
I appreciate that offer, or,
and you can still use this.
and you can still use this. You know, I don't want to overcomplicate it, but it is important, like who was there and, I don't know if anyone ever looks at it in 5 years, but we will have it done. Okay, well, we'll explore, and maybe next meeting we'll see something on the agenda that is more formal.
Yes.
About the chair and the vice chair. And the new
So-
secretary.
So our next meeting, I don't know why I had a question mark there. I didn't go back and finish
Chair,
that.
Kate is the secretary, and
April 29th.
draw one of the three that are not here as a vice chair.
Let's see, and where are we at? 8 o'clock?
Okay, do you have anything for upcoming events and programs?
I have the Rec Connect.
I'm excited to see that. I have not seen it online yet, so.
Oh, you haven't? Okay. I'll follow up tomorrow with an email on the electronic version, but I will share this. I apologize, I did not do the list of upcoming stuff. I do know,
Been busy, we'll forgive you.
I mean, I won't look through this now, but,
Some of those at the Radcliffe Center?
yeah. No,
I thought I saw them, yeah.
Yeah. I know we have a Earth Day event.
Okay, moving on. All right, commissioner comments. Kathy, would you like to start us off tonight?
I don't have anything further to say.
Okay.
Everything was good, brought up well today.
Any comments?
I'm good. I think I've said enough.
I don't think you have.
No comments.
Anything else?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
That's Kate.
Oh,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Do you have to do that to close? Yeah, I guess.
I don't know,
Do you?
I don't know.
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Okay.
Why she wants to
Hi, Zach.
Well, at least it made you from yesterday.